Welcome back to the Shadow Archives, a global fan-led talk show all about the Blade of Shadows. I'm your host, Matt from Ohio, and I am proudly joined by my friends from all around the world. They are Tam from Australia, Sam from England, Louise from Denmark, Patrick from North Carolina, and Lisa from Northern Virginia. On today's episode, we are discussing the entirety of Rise of the Shadow Lords. We'll be diving into our favorite characters, our favorite moments, our biggest takeaways, how it held up over time in a reread, and more. And with that, I suppose the archives are officially open. I would like to open our Shadow Lords discussion with a couple, basic high-level questions before turning it over to all of you for all of the deep stuff. So, first question, including this reread, how many times has everybody now read Rise of the Shadow Lords?
Twice.
For me, three times,
Three.
technically. Because I beta read, and then ARC read, and then now. I've read all the versions.
All right, Tam and Lisa at 3, Lou's got 2, Sam?
2.
Patrick, sir? 18?
all the way through. Yeah, 18. Yeah, no, all the way through, probably twice. But I think I've hit several parts of it multiple times just because I wanted to make sure I understood what was going on. Especially like going back, like, wait a second, hold on, wait a second. Let me go back and take a look at this. So straight through, completely, twice.
Okay. This was my second reading. And okay, so how was it this time around in comparison to the last time you read it? Like, for example, did your rating change? What was like the biggest difference between reading? Did it get better? Did it get worse? That kind of a pick your poison.
I kind of feel like I could not know what the book was and reread it again. But also at the same time, like there was so much that I'd missed in the first read that when you're reading through the second time, you're like, oh, so I forgot that bit, or I missed that bit, or I didn't pay attention to that bit, which is a little bit more poignant sort of in the book the second time round. But yeah, I enjoyed it the second time round. I definitely paid a lot more attention to what I was reading than just trying to get through and get to the end, because I really, really enjoyed it the first time. But the second time I sort of paced it a bit better.
I was actually going to say the same. I thought it was fun the second time to see all the Easter eggs and understanding them. So it was much better this time. But of course, it was also special for me the first time because it was the first book I read in the series. So that just made it extra special.
I was going to say it's weird reading it because I read it last. So now reading it before the rest of them, it's slightly changed my perspective on the whole series.
Tam, I see you nodding.
What is it? Yeah, because this is the thing. I think it's interesting because, yeah, first time I read it, because since I beta read, I was kind of like thinking about grammar and thinking about if like sentences made sense and stuff. Obviously the overall storyline. Like I literally, I wish I had the emails because there were like, there were points where I literally just like, I was like, oh, like who cares? I'm just gonna tell her my opinions, and I was like ranting about characters. I was like, I don't care if this isn't a grammar thing. Versus second time, then you got to see those changes, and then that's kind of what I more picked up on then. And then this third time, I felt like I actually enjoyed the book more than just like went on. Like obviously analyzed a little bit, wrote all my notes down, but it's like I felt like kind of this time was good because I got to really just enjoy the book that I was reading a lot more. Like I didn't hate the first 2 times. Like there's a reason I'm here. I loved the entire series. I love the entire series, but it was kind of nice to see that third time where I was like, oh, like I really get to like see into the book more than just like a bit more of an analytical point of view on top of a little bit of analytic stuff and like pinpointing like good moments and things. So it's quite good.
I think I'll piggyback off of Tam, just because I think I kind of did something very similar when I beta read. I actually kind of read the book twice in one go, because I essentially at the end of it, I sent Sarah and her assistant like a 56-page document of my thoughts and proofreading findings and stuff like that. So I was not like Sam. I was a lot less analytical this go around, and it changed how I read this book a lot. But I think it actually might have gotten better for me. Well, Lisa, what about you?
Each time I read it, I love it more. I get more out of it. I find more things to focus on that are amazing. And each time I read it, I just appreciate more and more just the way Sarah writes. I'm like, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I never get tired of it.
For me, I was a beta reader too, for this one. And with a beta read, you're under a time crunch. And so I was kind of powering through it. And luckily for me, I don't do the proofreading, because Sarah told me not to. She said, I've got people to proofread. I've got people to do grammar, to worry about it. I need you to look at the flow. Does it match? Does it relate to the rest of the series? And that's, and to be honest, when I beta read, Tam, I don't know with the beta version you got, that second chapter was a beast. It was like chapters 2 and 3 and 4 slammed together into one chapter. She kept asking me, she was like, hey, is everything going on? I mean, I was like, I'm still trying to get through the second chapter. There's just so much going on. So, like Tam, it was nice to see when the arc came out that was all broken up, because it just made, it just flowed, from the get go. I didn't have to like stop and try and figure out what all was going on. So, I really enjoyed this read. This is the first time I've actually done, a buddy read, I guess you could say. So, I've really enjoyed this aspect of it because I did get to actually get more into the story. Vice, get everything done before it gets released, get everything done before it goes to the ARC reader, get everything done before, this time. I was actually able to have fun with it. So, so
I
that's
love reading it
that's
with
my
you
thought.
all.
Does before we get into everybody's questions, did anybody's rating for the book change based upon this most recent read?
It's still
I think
5 out of 5.
mine did
Yeah,
because I did 4 the first time, only because I felt when the series came out, the placement of where the book was, it didn't fall where I thought it should. So, like, obviously, it was the last
Interesting.
book that she'd released before the next one, and so it was almost like it was a story that was just put out for the sake of putting it out. But now, moving it to the front is bumped it up to 5 for me.
Yeah, I didn't change my rating. But like I think yeah, so that's interesting, Sam. I know I wasn't going to ask the whole reading order thing. I figured somebody was going to bring that up at some point. So I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later. I think that'll be a really interesting debate.
Well, I actually had a pretty busy week, so I actually only have the one question. But I'm sure over time I'll probably come up with a couple more. But my question is, what is the one thing or theme that really stood out to you throughout the Shadow Lord's book that could get a new reader hooked in a few sentences, like 5 or less? And for me, it was, and obviously I'll go first. For me, my hook was the vivid imagery that she was actually able to tell the story in, almost made it feel like you were standing right beside the characters. You could see it, you could
100%.
feel it, you could smell it. Everything was, I mean, this is probably the world building in this one was continuous through the entire book. It never slowed down. It didn't fall off. A lot of books, you get the world building at the very beginning and then it goes into the story and you don't get any more of the world building. This world building just continued on throughout the whole book. So for me, it's really just the vivid imagery that she wrote down made it feel like I was standing, experiencing the whole thing with the characters.
Definitely.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I love what you said resonates with me big time. 100% felt that way. I loved the friends to enemies. That whole thing was just delicious. The whole storyline of these friends when they're children, growing up, picking up for each other, being there for each other, and then how it all just went so terribly and incredibly complicated and wrong.
I really
I
like
mean,
the
I convinced.
okay.
No, you go. You go, girl.
I like the little like secret seeds that were planted throughout the story, like you know, Salvatore killing Lazarus's mum, and then Severin being the dad, and I think the more you read, you could see things sort of happening in real time, which made me want to keep going, keep reading.
Yeah, I like that.
I
can
mean,
do
I
it.
convinced people to read on the train once because I literally just go because okay, I think of like especially what kind of goes for I guess like my generation and like what we find very hooking. I like telling people that it's time travel done right because I feel like in so many things and so many things I've read, also so many things I've seen on TV and stuff, I love time travel. It's one of my favorite like sort of genres of things. And so I like how well done it is. And so that's why I tell people, I'm like time travel was done like very correct. It made sense. It had a reason, like now when you see it's got a reason to be there as well. So like that's kind of just how I convince people because people are like, oh, they're like, oh, and then it's like obviously being like, it's like got a little bit of the fantasy vibes, like it's got like a nice little romance to follow along that kind of is kind of enemies to lovers that we will see in the next book. So it's like a nice like mix of everything that you need in that sort of stuff. That's how I convince people.
Okay,
Lulu?
I'll just read what I wrote it down because I can't remember my thoughts, so I'll just read aloud. For me, it was the one thing that stood out is that in Shadow Lords, you experience the universe where you have a puzzle and an Easter egg on all in one package, and nothing is ever done without meaning behind it. And of course, what I love most, there is no villains being villains just because. It's not like, oh, it was Monday or I lost my favorite toy, or they have reason and we get to see it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the everything having meaning behind it, intentionality, that really resonated with me both times that I read it for sure. I think what's complicated about your question, Patrick, is that as soon as you add the thing that would hook somebody, my answer completely changes, like does a 180. Because the things that really stand out to me about the story is how interconnected it is with the rest of the series, but you would never know that on a first read.
True.
Ever. Like when I read the beta, I kept sending notes to Sarah like, oh, I found an Easter egg, found an Easter egg, found an Easter egg. And she was impressed by me. But now with a second read, I'm like, oh, I found maybe 15% of the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
You know? So for the thing that would hook that I think I would tell people that how Sarah writes dark graphic stuff. I know I put a video out on my own channel about how I feel like dark fantasy fails so often. And one of the things I did not say in that video that I'll say here that I think is a hook for people is oftentimes I feel like a lot of dark torture, graphic, whatever scenes in dark fantasy, you get the sensation, but you can never visualize them. But with
Mhm.
this book, I feel like you get that same feeling, but you can actually see every single dark, graphic, gory thing in your head. And I think that is what I would tell people. Like that's a hook for people. That's my answer to your question.
It's a
Yeah.
movie in
Yeah.
your mind.
Well, I know just like, Tam got people on the train to read it. I actually got 3 of my students to purchase her books, just because I talk about it all the time. And I've got copies go figure, I've got copies of her books in my office at work. And I was like, "Hey, here you go. Read the first, at lunchtime, read the first couple of pages and let me know what you think." And, every single book starts off right from the get-go, from the very first sentence, basically.
Yep.
And they'll be like, I'll walk in and be like, "Oh, you're already through the first chapter. Okay. All right." They're like, "Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy this." So I was like, "Sweet." So then I text Sarah, "Hey, guess what? Get ready for an order," so.
Patrick keeping Sarah Samuels in business since 2021.
Yep.
What is it? This is the
Good
thing.
question.
All this stuff is now making me want to purchase the books again. Like actually, like purchase all the physical copies and like read it third or fourth time depending on the book, and then like annotate it all now because I've got the first book, but it's like such like a special copy because it's like one of Sarah's like special editions that she sent to me and like signed and everything, and I'm like I don't really want to touch that one. Like it's a pretty
Yeah.
one. I've got that of Time Born, and I'm like now I kind of like it sucks because Australians do get everything more expensive. So all her books are like $40 each. But so it's something to save up for, but it's like just annotating it on making it all look pretty and reading it again. Oh no, damn it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely
you have to have the
understand, Tam.
bookshelf version, and then you have to have the crap version that you write in, and the spine's all effed
No,
up.
that's what
And
I'm saying.
Yep, I've got one of those sets. So
Yeah. My question is, at what point did you feel like this is my favorite character? And I'll
ooh,
just start us off. For me, well, the favorite being Salvatore, a little special, I know, suits me well. I had so much difficulties figuring out when it started because I loved him well from the beginning, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna go so badly. But I think actually it was in chapter 6 where he finally decided to stand up to his father. He went back from the war knowing this is gonna go badly, and he still went. And I think that is what I love most about him. So I think that was where I just felt like, okay, he's my favorite, and I know it's gonna not very well with him, but I just kind of never gave up. As you guys already know, I still haven't given up.
I
yeah,
know. That's your guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So wanna go next?
Well, when I read Time Born, Olivia I made a connection with Olivia and that was it. adore her, and her man Roman, just adore them. And that I was hooked. That book, that I read that first because, you know, this one hadn't come out yet. I read this one last. And then now I read it first. But Timeborn was my first one when it came out, and it was very special to me.
Yeah, I would have to say I kind of agree with Lisa because obviously I read it last. So I had already met Salvatore and Lazarus in the later on in the series, but it was nowhere near the background, nowhere near the backstory. And I kept asking, especially when Lazarus would just pop up out of nowhere and then be this old decrepit old dude, you know, and then and Sarah would be like, "Don't worry, his book is coming. His book is coming." And then we started talking about it, and then the beta came out, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Now I get it. So now, I think for me, I'd already liked Lazarus, just because of later on in the series where I got him from. I kind of like the fact that he was still kind of the good guy. I did not realize what he had to do to get to be a Shadow Lord, because I originally thought he was just a darkness, and then through the series it came out that he was a Shadow Lord. But even then, you know, the definition of the Shadow Lords really wasn't put out until really this book. So it was, for me, it was right away for me, just so I was jaded, I guess you could say. I had my own thoughts before I came into this as to who I like. So unfortunately I can't really say a particular part in this book. But yeah, I'm really glad this one came out. And I can't wait for the book numbering question, because I've got a lot to say about that. So
There was like with Amara, it's like, because I thought in Timeborn, she's just very like grandma energy, obviously, because she pretty much is a grandma. But at the same time, she's just got that kind of like love about her, just because she's got that like homely feeling. And like, obviously, we'll get more into it when we read book one, but like, you know, she doesn't take Olivia's shit, but she understands. And then you can kind of see where that love comes from in this book. Because then, like, I didn't clock right away that Amara was Amara in book one for a hot while either, when I was first reading through it, which is shocking. But then, like, you can just you just see the kind of person that she is, and you can see how it's kind of carried on into the next book. But I'm realizing now, if we do, because we obviously analyze this a lot and stuff like that, I'm already predicting who I think another one of my favorite characters is going to be later on, which I think is going to be Balthazar, honestly, which is very shocking. But
Team Bossy right here.
That's his guy.
Because either him or Marcellius, because of how
That's what
complex
I
their
think.
characters are.
Yes,
Because half of
Marcellian.
like how complex their characters are, and because of like everything that happens, I'm like, I think I'm gonna really really like them when it gets to that, because I already did kind of like justice for Balthazar. Like when Wicked Lovers of Time, I just kind of felt bad for him, and I was like, I don't know how Sarah can switch that up, but yeah. So I feel like that's gonna come up.
Crazy.
I think mine's a bit controversial. I think it's the Dreadhold.
Ooh.
Because if it's just about this book, it's the Dreadhold, because it's so well described as a living, breathing thing with organs and stuff that I had a hard time picking, like, you know, Amara Salvatore or Lazarus, because my main focus was always pulled to the Dreadhold, and it was like, I wonder what the next thing is it's going to bring. I wonder what treats and delights it's got just chilling behind, the next trial that they had and stuff. So it's not a physical person, but she's written it so well that I would class it as a character for this book, definitely.
Nice, Sam.
That's a good answer.
I think
I
it's
think this
kind
is
of
a
fun.
really,
Sorry.
I think it's a really fascinating question, Lou, because I didn't have a favorite character in this book the first time I read it. But
Do you now?
my favorite character in this particular book, I knew from the prologue, is Severin. He's not necessarily a good person or something, but it's just, what is it with this dude? Is he going to come back? Is he bigger than this book? All those kinds of things. I think for the entire series, though, I knew like 65% of the way through Wicked Lovers of Time that my favorite character was going to be Jack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's your guy.
But the Dreadhold, oof.
That's Sam. That was
We
awesome.
we did talk a lot, like almost every episode from once we got to the Dreadhold about it and the shadows and
It's just
how
the
they're
way she was
married
saying it, breathing, it was there was always like an emotion, or there was always a feeling or a
The human
movement that it was
quality.
doing. Yeah,
Mhm.
that it,
Yeah.
it's almost like she made that whole prison a being or an entity.
If you could pick anybody out of history, living or dead, who would you have dinner with? So this is who would you have dinner with? This version. If you could pick one person to have dinner with in the whole series, are we doing the whole series or just the first book?
It's your question, lady.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just want to make
Let's
sure
go
I'm not
for-
going beyond the parameters. In the whole series, I would like to know who you would
Okay.
have dinner with. And I would choose. See, I would want to choose Olivia because I love her. But then who I really would have dinner with is Alina. And I would spend the entire time just psychoanalyzing her and trying to figure that bitch out.
Good luck.
I know, right? But I gotta
No.
know. I gotta know why. Why? Why, Alina? Why?
You think? I think
Anybody
I
else?
actually feel the same because I
Yeah.
would pick Mariana. Well, figuring out who is she, I want answers.
Oh wow, yeah.
That would be interesting. Well, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who I would choose.
Balthazar.
That's right. I would choose old Balsy. We'd go and have a few
Patrick.
drinks.
Balthazar from which book?
Ooh.
Oh, that's man. You threw me on
Are
that
we
one.
talking Darkness of Time Balthazar, or are we talking Time Hunters Balthazar?
Or an
Or somewhere
era
in between.
of Wicked Lovers, if you really want to.
I was gonna say there's multiple
Well,
eras.
definitely
of
not
Wicked
one
Lovers.
part. Definitely not one part of Wicked Lovers. I can tell you that. That's no.
Oh,
not
you don't
that
want
part.
Maggot Balthy?
No. I
Yeah, I
don't
was
want
gonna say the
Balsy.
maggots.
No, not into
Maybe
maggots.
that's after dinner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Oh man, that's so to think about which one. I don't know. I think all of them together because he is
Ooh.
I
he's
think
in
the time traveler.
everywhere, and it's almost like he's one way this way in this book, and then he kind of switches a little bit, and then he's just again just kind of like what Tam was saying about Marcellus being such a complex character. I think Balti's going to have a huge part in this last book.
What would you
And
I
ask
think
him?
What would I ask him?
Yeah, what would your first question
Oh,
be?
you're gonna have to give me a second on that one. Because I was just thinking about him just
Why,
running off
Alina?
of the mouth because that's what he does. You know, he controls the situation.
True.
So,
I
but
know that while you think on that, Patrick, I know that my answer is going to be the exact same as Tam's. So, Tam, who would you want to have dinner with?
Okay, well, I've got two, so it could be a bit different.
Okay.
I've got two because obviously my girl Amara, I'd love to just have obviously a little sit down, little girly night, but then also Olivia, because I think that like if Olivia had a spare couple times in her adventures, her and I hitting the clubs, and I think it'd be really fun. And I feel like Miss Girl needs a break. We've seen everything she's been through.
Yeah.
I want to take her back
And Mara too.
to what is it, like the 2020s? I think that's where, like around where it's set, maybe a little bit earlier. I want to take her back there, and Roman can come with if he really wants to. Maybe him and my boyfriend would get along. You know, they're both kind of gym bros in their own way. And then we just hit up the clubs, and she gets a break for like 5 minutes. She doesn't have kids now, so it might be a bit harder, but you know, she can do her best.
Yeah. Nice, Tam.
I wouldn't be able to. I can't have dinner with Olivia. That would turn into a date, at least on my end, so fast. And the rejection at the end of dinner would be so hard and devastating. Oh,
You
man.
were so funny, man.
No, I would want Amara, because Amara is not a darkness. She's not a shadow lord. She's not a time traveler. She's
just a girl.
She's in their world, and I think that would be the most interesting thing to question. And she's been brought back,
and
right?
her
She's
dad's
been
a shadow lord.
Her dad is, but she's not.
Mm.
So like it would be really interesting to ask her like what it's like and what she thinks. What is it like being reincarnated or resurrected or whatever the R word is? And how like you've lived in all these different times, and you've lived these different lives. And also, can you cook me dinner, Mima? Like, I don't want to take you out for
No,
dinner. I
yeah.
want you to cook me dinner. Like, crock pot it up, lady, you know? But
That's
Olivia,
funny.
that would be disastrous for me, I think. I would crush way too hard.
I've technically got sort of three potential. It would be Balthazar, because I think he's a little bit sick and twisted, and that would be quite cool. But I also think that Jack and Moonlight, because I don't think either of those people we know enough about, and I'd want to ask all the delvy questions and find out, you know, a bit of the nitty gritty. Of like, who the
Jack
hell are
would
you?
certainly be a good guest for dinner.
And
Yeah,
I think
you
he'd be really
love Jack.
polite. But I think also there's so much throughout the whole series about Jack that you just, you know, he's somebody far off in the background that there's many things I'd like to know about him, I think.
He'd probably help
That's
clean the
good, Sam.
dishes.
Patrick, have you thought of your first question for Balti yet?
No, I'm still trying to figure out exactly because I wanted to make sure if I'm going to ask him the very first question, I want to make sure it's deep. You know, that's going to have some meat to it. And because
I've got a question with meat to it, if you know what I mean. Just ask him about that scene. Was it as good for you as we know it was for Alina?
I want to know if the maggots are necessary or not. Like, does he need to have them to perform, or is it just
it's performance anxiety? So then, like, you know,
yeah, like does it have
It's
to be
like his
good?
version of Viagra.
Yeah, or you know,
wow, I wasn't going to quite take it there, but
little white pills, I guess.
Does he just have to use it to, like, you know, make himself feel big and strong, and throw maggots at people?
In comparison to the size of the maggots.
Oh, yeah, well.
When we get to that
Uh,
scene, we need to analyze everything about the maggot. Sarah would be
Yes.
so happy to see that, guys.
uh,
The,
I'm gonna
like the
start
entire
naming
episode,
them.
we don't even touch any. The entire like time that we talk about them. No, we have the maggots chapter as one separate episode, and we just analyze the maggots the entire time. Sarah would
okay.
love that episode, and I think that she would love everything that we've done for her after that.
I like Sam's idea of like naming them. Be like, this one's Frank, and
I've
this
got
one's
Trevor,
Roger.
there's
This is
Terrence.
Balthazar Jr.
We can all have one named after us if we really like as well. We'll have enough.
Many, many, many maggots.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
I'm gonna have to really consider the reading schedule for that book. Oh
Hey,
man,
I'll take
We
14 for
need
that
extra
one. I
time.
think it's going to be hilarious.
it would be great.
Should I do like a how-to guide on that one?
Please, I need a step by step. I need the visuals.
Make-
We won't
How
understand
to woo a
otherwise.
lover. Drop maggots.
Safe
Well, how
sex
to
by
rule
Sam.
Nina.
Wow. That book's
Use a
gonna be
bucket and
that
catch
book's
the
gonna be
fish.
interesting.
Don't try this at home.
It's more like the how not to guide.
I like that. It's
Turn
very
offs and turn ons.
how to lose a guy in 10 days.
In 10 seconds.
I was going to say
Yeah.
how to lose a girl in 10 seconds. Drop the maggots.
I mean, the
Hey,
maggots are
this is a kink
unprotected,
free
and that's
zone,
just a
remember?
red flag, you know.
What was it? Tam said kinks are...
This
no,
is a
what was
kink
it?
free zone.
Kink
so,
shaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
it's
kink shaming. Kinks are for everybody.
no kink shaming, guys. Come on.
Don't see him if you
If-
haven't tried it, so you don't know.
Speak on it.
I don't think I'd ever
good.
turn
I
up to
mean,
somebody
one
and be
has
like,
to
so
wonder if that
my
maggot
kink
scene
is
was like
maggots.
technically an orgy or not.
Ooh.
Just
Yeah.
with the sheer number of potential individuals in that room, you know, I don't know.
That's right.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I would love
Um,
that. That was a good question. Good
Yeah.
answers.
If you were time-born and you somehow managed to get to this exact time when everything was made, what would you do? Because, like, you literally get to see how your people were created. Like, would you get somehow spawned, I'm saying it like it's Minecraft, spawned into, like, the Dreadhold where, like, the Shadow Trials are going on? Would you be able to do an Olivia and go chill with Amara for half the time until she gets taken away herself? Like, what do you think would happen to you? And, like, yeah, what would you do in this situation?
Do you mean in the entire series or just this book?
We can do, honestly, I'm down to do the entire series. Oh, actually, no, wait, let me switch up the question a little bit. If you had to accidentally get dropped into a moment of the book, where would you go? I feel like that's more of a better question. If you could, yeah. If
Funny
you're
answer?
a little time-born,
Chapter
if you're a
14
little
of Wicked Lovers.
time-born... Is that the
I
maggot
know
scene?
exactly where I'd
Yeah.
go.
Beautiful. Bring back the maggot scene.
No.
You know,
what are you just gonna be a voyeur in the corner? What? What?
No, I'd be one of the maggots.
I'm not going there.
You need a chair, maybe a
No,
stool, or are you
Yeah,
gonna
the cup-
stand there with a dunce hat?
Little cup chair. Cup chair for the maggot scene.
But guys, don't mind me.
Cushion?
I'm just
No
gonna...
cushion?
Sam, by the
Sorry,
next
go ahead, Sam.
episode's going to have the image ready.
Yeah. I get the how not to.
No.
I think the Americas one would be quite cool. I think that there's a lot of the story that I really enjoyed in that time period. And also, I think the outfits are a little bit more flattering. than like the stuff from Rome, because I don't think it's I was just recently listening to Timeborn for the next read, and are they called Starless, or I can't remember what they're called, like the togas but not togas. I don't think they're practical for me because I'm an accident prone klutz and I would probably hurt myself quite regularly.
I think if I were to be dropped anywhere in the book or anywhere in the series, I think I would choose the Americas as well, but not in book 2. I would want to be dropped in Sweet Venom of Time when Roman and Marcellus were born in the Americas with the tribe.
Oh, okay.
That's where
That's
I think I
cool.
would, because at that point it really sees the separation. I think that would be where I would want to start to get dropped in on.
Is that is that obviously that would be book 5, but in the time sequence, is that before they get to the Americas then? Because
Yes.
where's the sister was
So
born?
in Sweet Venom of Time, it was it 1700s, I think, and then in book 2, it was
Yeah.
in the 1800s.
Okay.
Roman was born in roughly 1760 because he was 1762 because I think he enlists in the army when he's 18, and I remember the date of him going back to the Americas to be in the British army was 1780. So it was like the tail end of the revolution.
Yeah.
I guess in their perspective, the revolt.
Yeah.
Stupid colonials.
So good question, Tam. I like that one.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would definitely go save Salvatore. I would just I would just drop in when he gets back from the war and show him some love. Then
Luke
he
can
will
change
come
him.
out
Fixer
dead.
upper.
Luke can fix him.
Oh.
Lou's gonna show him some love.
Lou's gonna
I'm just
fix him,
gonna save
guys.
him.
Gonna bake him
He
some
likes
naan
a
bread.
fixer upper.
I'm not bringing maggots.
If I had to be dropped, I would pick what is the year? The 1560s Italy from
Yes.
Wicked Lovers of Time,
Ooh.
where Alina is raised. I don't know if that's the best time period, but like, how awesome would Italy be? And like, I'm a man, so I got it made already. If I have to go back in time, not a whole lot standing in my way to survive, at least in society. I'll probably be dead in about 25 seconds from some plague or virus or angry woman. But you know, Alina would probably get me. Not like she gets Balthazar, like in the I'm dead way.
So like all of her suitors, that's who you would end up be?
I wouldn't be one of her suitors though. No, I'd probably be like the stable boy that she frames out of nowhere. I want to re-ask the same question. And I do want to make it specific to Rise of the Shadow Lords. Since none of us picked Ugarit as our answer, except for Lou. Because Lou picked it, that's why I want everybody else to answer it in terms of where in Rise of the Shadow Lords would you as a time traveler go? Why and what would you do? Lou is going to go as soon as he comes home from the war, and she's going to console her man.
Get in there before Helena.
Wait, as soon as he comes home from the war, is this before he sees his dad or after he sees his dad?
After.
Okay, so if it's after he sees his dad, is that before or after he sees Helena?
Before.
Oh, yeah, it's before. Okay. Got you.
I think I would
nice.
choose the end of the book. Like, just as they're getting all of the all of the bits together for the making a time traveler.
Do you like jarring emotions? Is that your hobby?
No.
No?
No, I think I try and run interference.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking too. To get there before Salvatore does what he does to
Yeah.
save Alina. I mean, Amara, sorry. Got Alina in the brain.
That's my thing. I think my toxic trait with thinking that if like I would run and save Amara and be able to successfully do it, even though he's like a Shadow Lord. That's my toxic trait. I'm like, no, I could do it. I could save her. Big bad magical man. Nah. I started going to the gym like 2 days ago. I'm ready. I'm set.
Well, if someone can do it, it's
I'm
you,
ready.
a girl.
I scoop ice cream. My right arm is very strong. I can do this shit. It's so strong. It's like actually embarrassing, guys, at this point. You should see me at the gym. It's so bad.
I was an ice cream scooper when I was 18, 19, 20. I
Mhm.
I feel that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I
The
totally
pup's still
misheard
there
what
from
you said
last
then.
night.
I thought you said
The
when
Brady
you were
Alice muscle
18,
gets from
19,
multiplying.
20.
Yeah, it sounded like he said 1920. I think he meant
18,
19
19,
and he
20.
had
I thought you said
20,
when I was
not in.
18 in 1920.
Yeah, sounded quite up.
I was like,
Right, like
whoa.
he
So
said,
You
He's a
don't
time
know.
traveler.
Hey, hey,
Yeah.
we are talking about
Can you
time
time
travel here. You
travel?
don't know.
That's right. He's a time traveler.
Actually, if I came from that time period, my whole general aesthetic would make so much more sense to everybody.
That's true.
Explanation.
Word.
Yep.
Like a
I don't know.
Pantene commercial. All right.
With the intentionality that Sarah writes this in the book, I don't know if I were to get dropped in, I don't think it would really matter what time in Shadow Lords, because now that I've read Shadow Lords, now I think, Matt, you said it kind of changes the whole rest of the series. So now I don't know if I'd want to stop anything. I don't know if I would want to run interference. I don't know if I would, because
True. I know. Yeah.
again, that would fall back into the typical time travel story. Well, let me change this, and then it creates an alternate universe, and it changes history from here out.
Yeah.
You know, I think I would like to. I think if I were to be dropped in specifically in Shadow Lords, I would want to be a shadow in the Dreadhold. That's where I would want to be
Ooh.
dropped in.
Wow.
Number one, because I like to talk and they never seem to shut up. So, but I think being part of the shadows, you get to see both sides of it. Yeah, I think that's where I would want to be dropped in.
That's
specifically
cool.
to the Shadow Lords.
You'll always be well fit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I could do pretty much what I wanted.
Sure.
That's cool, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to start naming the shadows then. This one's Patrick.
Well,
He's
you can
happy.
leave me out. You can leave. You don't need to name a maggot after me. I'm good. I appreciate it.
No, you
Yeah.
can be one of the shadows, watching the
Yeah.
maggot scene,
There we go. I'll be one of
feeding
those.
off of it, as it were. And I don't know what
So
that says
much
about
eating.
you, but it says something. It makes me tingly inside. Okay.
I've got one sort of slightly serious one, and then the rest of them are all a bit fun. The question I have is, did you find the pacing of the Shadow Lords, Rise of the Shadow Lords work, or is there a particular part of the book that you would like to have spent a little bit more time on? I only say this because I feel that after the Shadow Lord trials finished, it went from finishing, Amara dying, the guys saying that they're never going to see each other again. 50 years passed. I feel that there was quite a lot missed. Like, there was no mention of why, or a very brief mention of why Lazarus chained Salvatore down in the basement and stuff. I feel that there was probably a fair bit that could have been described in that bit. And then also the fact that the building of the time traveler was meant to be a year and it was basically like a chapter. I feel that there was quite a lot of time spent in the Dreadhold, and obviously that's, you know, built the story of how the Shadow Lords are made and stuff. But I feel that the last sort of 4 chapters of the book, they had quite a lot of stuff that could have happened. And I'm not saying it was wrong in the way it was done at all, but I would like to have seen a bit more of either pre how to build a time lord, or a little bit more like on the collection side of things.
I think Sarah's really intentional on how and why she does things. And I'm wondering if the last book will fill in some blanks, here and there. I don't know.
Pacing is a really, really hard question. And I know I gave Sarah a lot of grief for pacing, but I think a lot of my opinion about the pacing has changed with this reread. I think that we spend time in each of the individual trials perfectly.
Yeah.
It moves at a really good pace going in and out of them. I think if we would explore any of that more, it would be too much. But if we
Yeah.
explore any of it less, it would minimalize the trauma and whatnot. And then in terms of we go from the end of the Dreadhold to 50 years later, I actually think that's my favorite pacing part of the entire book. For a couple of reasons. Firstly, so much happens in that 50-year expanse, but the reason we don't cover it is because it's not important in comparison to what happens before and after. And I think that's a really good narrative, interesting choice. Secondly, because we don't get any of that information, it gives Sarah the opportunity to write entire books about it. And how awesome would that be? I don't want 50 pages on it. I want 500 pages on it.
Yeah.
I think if I wanted to spend any more time anywhere, it would be, I don't remember. It would be the entire pre-war segment, before the boys go to war, because something that I did not understand on my first read that I totally get on the second read is those first 4 chapters or whatever. I know it's all about Lazarus and Salvatore on page, but it's not about them at all. It's all about Severin in the background. And so I would want more of that. I want more setup of the shadows. I want more setup of the dark world that this man is controlling, as a marionette puppeteer. That's where I would want another 50 to 100 pages spread out across all those chapters. I think that would be fascinating because so much of this book is about Severin, but there's only one point of view in the prologue from Severin, but it's all about Severin. And I can only imagine that the reason we didn't get more time traveler creation at the end is because that only matters as an impetus for the rest of the series. But this book itself is about Severin
Mhm,
Mm.
mhm,
and what
mhm,
the payoff of
mhm.
that could be later, and can we get more of that in the beginning of the book?
Yeah,
That's
she's
my opinion.
intentional. She's intentional.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Did I
Fast,
take the
Sarah.
wind out of everybody's sails with that? Or
No, actually, no.
No,
I
That's
don't
a
have
no.
that is a
anything to add.
great.
I just agree. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I didn't really kind of think about it that way because I thought the pacing throughout the entire book was spot on. Just like Matt
Mhm.
said, it was just enough, but it wasn't too much. Like I told you, that first time I read, and it was just like, just sometimes she'll send me like a few pages, a few chapters at a time, and then that first time I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't. This is rough, you know. And then when she said, "Okay, it's done. Here we go," and I read through that thing, and I never put it down. It was just
Mm.
it just flowed so much better. So I kind of got lost in the story, with how she wrote it. To me, I thought the pacing was good throughout the whole book because I don't think it slowed down at all.
No?
It just
No.
kept right on going throughout the whole thing, um, which is pretty much most, all of her books. They start right from the
Exactly.
page one, and then I'm done. So
It's a wild ride the whole way
if
through.
you ever get
Mhm.
1 or 2 pages where you think you're in a lull, you're gonna do this, and it's gonna explode into your face. That's
right,
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Mhm.
and then you have to go back a few pages to wait. So what did I miss? You know,
Mhm.
so
I
good
also think the
question.
way that that Matt, the way you broke down the chapters for us to read as well. Like I know we were only doing it for like the segments and stuff, but I feel that it was for me personally, because I struggle to read big chunks of book to you know to get my head around what's happened and stuff. Um, I really like the way that you broke it
Mm.
down into the chunks, and it
Me
wasn't
too.
you never missed like a
Yeah,
you
for sure. Yeah.
you broke it in the right spot, so it was never like, oh, we're halfway through this point and then we're gonna stop and go for it and stuff. It was cleverly done.
Mm.
Bravo.
It's
Thank you.
definitely
I've only done that with Rise of the Shadow Lords and Timeborn, and I should really start, looking into the future a smidge.
I think it would be usable for new readers who's like, okay, I can't read an entire book. Where's a good place to stop? So they know, okay, these chapters work well together, and then you can take a break, and then these work well, so they don't stop in the middle of a chapter because they'll be like, oh, okay, it's only 3 or 4 chapters, and they'll just keep reading it.
Mm.
Because that's the thing
I
I had
will
when I was
for
doing the arc reading was that I felt like I had to read as quick as possible and felt like I'd
Mhm.
missed quite a few bits and pieces. Um, and so when we were talking about doing the reread, I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know if I can catch up with like seasoned readers like you guys where I don't read more than sort of like 4 or 5 chapters at a time. And even like the first week when we'd read the first, I think it was like 5 or 6 chapters, my brain was like, oh my God, if this is the 7, if we're getting to this point, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like catch up. But then, yeah, the rest of them were broken down quite nicely that it was easy enough for me to catch up.
Mm.
well, for anybody listening, the reading breakdown will forever be a pinned post on our social media pages. So go hit us up on TikTok or Instagram and find our pinned posts, and
Yeah.
and every time I come out with a new reading order for the next book, I'm just making a new carousel. So all of the books will be in there, and I'll just essentially be appending the next book to it. So it'll always be a pinned post on our Instagram if you're ever curious about breaking it down for your own reread or whatever. Thank you for that
Wow.
huge pat on my back there, Sam. Appreciate you.
the series, the whole series, was made into a TV series or film, what scene do you think would break the internet? And I'm not talking
Uh,
about
the
4K.
mag-
What are you even
Duh.
talking
Come
about,
on,
girl?
hello. We
Yeah.
talked about it for a while here.
Wait, are we talking about Shadow Lord or the entire series?
Go with Shadow Lords first, I think.
Amara's dead.
Yeah.
Break the internet.
I feel like the cannibalism scene, depending how they
yeah.
do that.
Maybe the ones with all the snakes, because I think not very many people love those.
See from
I
a
don't
chef's
like
Children's
snakes.
sex
right?
dungeon.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the sex dungeon.
mine would be the hot
My-
oil.
Oof.
Like
There's
being
so
a
much
chef,
to
it's
choose
burning
from.
yourself with oil. It's painful, but ugh.
Well, I think another question
Quite-
to ask is which way would it break the internet?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously the sex dungeon would break it in one particular way. I think the ascension part would break a lot of people, because it would actually get right down to the, for lack of a better term, the brass tacks of what can you let go, what can you give up. And you have to really do a lot of introspective looking at that. So just kind of like what we talked about, I can't even remember what episode it was, where we even talked about it ourselves a little bit. It's, I think, depending on which way you want to break the internet, that's what my thought would be, which I wasn't levity at all, but
I'm relatively sure that is episode 5. So if anybody listening would like to hear what we think we would have to give up in order to ascend as a Shadow Lord, you can find that in episode 5, and I'll link it here in the description down below. Okay, so breaking the internet. I'm surprised nobody said this. There is a certain scene that Lou wants to save Salvatore from that I think I will title the Threesome Massacre. And I'm not going to redepict it word for word. I will just say that if it is word for word depicted on film, the way it is, the way he finds it, and the way it all happens, I think that'll break the internet for gore, sex, trauma.
Oscar nomination to whoever plays Salvatore.
Oscar nomination to
so
whoever
many-
plays Helena.
yeah.
There are so many things on this internet. Threesomes is not a big deal on the internet. They're
I think
all
that the position that
consenting.
Salvatore finds Helena in is pretty graphically noteworthy.
I know, but they were all consenting.
But
I don't think they were consenting
follows
to the murder, if I'm going to give my 2 cents.
Yeah, that.
They
Well,
didn't get
I
the
thought
happy ending.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, if they did tell Salvatore that they wanted his sword involved, I don't think that they meant it literally in the way that Salvatore ended up doing it.
That's right. No, I just
Like,
thought
oh,
you
sorry,
meant the scene
sword.
that he walked into.
Oh no, the entire thing, what he finds and then what he does.
What he does is pretty brutal.
No, Salvatore, not that sword. Oh.
Exactly.
He
They just
obviously did
forgot
not
to
read
ask
his
for a happy
invitation.
ending.
Okay, so we've all gone around the horn with questions. Anybody have another question?
I have one.
Do we want to? No, you go.
Oh, you can go first, Tim.
Oh, I was going to say, well, my question was the one that we haven't asked, but we're definitely going to talk about, which is where should we put the book in the order?
Ooh, okay, let's
So
finish
far.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Lou?
Well, I think it's probably a little bit like the questions we already had, but I'll just ask it. If you could be someone's shadow and talk to them, who would it be? This doesn't have to be the same one you wanted to have dinner with. This is one you can kind of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know my own question yet, so if anyone
No,
has any
that's
secret-
good. That's a good one. That's a good one. Hmm.
So
I'm
you're
gonna
asking.
choose
So you're
someone else
asking.
and do it all.
So you're asking who would we want to be the shadow for?
Yes, and have a possibility to influence.
Salvatore. That's my
See,
pick.
I'm gonna go with
You see,
Saren.
Ooh.
You see, for me,
Oh.
ethically, Lazarus. I feel like he's gonna be the most chill.
I think you would starve.
Yeah, that was my point. You starve, and I'll be overfed.
Yeah, you're gonna get fat, Lou.
Yeah.
Although I guess Tam, technically, at least here in America, the whole heroin chic thing from the 90s is coming back. So maybe this is actually in your benefit to be Lazarus's shadow.
God.
I don't know. Severin would
feeding
be
off
a
the
good pick for
druggies.
me. I think Severin. I would want to be Severin's shadow. That would be
Very interesting.
interesting.
Patrick and Lou, if you guys are a shadow for Severin, so the shadows are evil. I think based upon what we've read, we can kind of all agree that they might be a neutral evil, but they're evil. They have an evil, self-interested agenda. But I have to wonder, if you are a shadow for Severin, do you almost feel like the good guy in comparison to the person you're talking to?
Yeah, for sure.
I think I just see the person as a vessel for me trying to carry on out stuff, making it go my way.
I'd want to do Severin
Um,
too, but I think I would want to be like the antagonistic shadow, and I'd be the one that sort of pokes him and makes him do.
I completely agree with Sam. I think with what if I could do this, and we're thinking completely abstractly, I think it would be fun to be the antagonist to Severin.
Like if he's going, oh, I'm going to be big and
just to
strong,
keep
you're like,
poking,
no, you're not.
Oh,
No, you're not.
You think that's bad? Psh, you ain't got nothing. What
Which
are
is
you
probably
thinking?
why he would be as bad as he is. That he's like, oh, I'll show you. But like, nope, keep poking.
Yeah.
How messed up would it be is if you are one of Severin's shadows when he's diddling Lazarus's mom, but then you jump ship when Lazarus ascends and you attach yourself to Lazarus, but you still have all of the memories of when Severin was with his mom. How messed up of a relationship would that be?
Yeah, that's a little
Maybe-
too incestuous.
Maybe
Yeah.
we manipulated it.
Like, are the shadows whispering to Lazarus when he's with Amara? They're like, not as good as your mom, bro. Like what kind of weird evil shit is going to go down?
That's
Your mum did it
insane.
better.
I love
But
that.
it would be so different from who I am. I think that's one reason why I would want to do it. Because it would
Same.
just be completely. Yeah, it would just be. It would allow me to do things I would normally not do. So
It's Patrick on Masquerade.
Yeah.
A new way of getting out of the comfort zone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm just hearing Masquerade from Phantom of the Opera in my head now. And Patrick's dancing
Same. As
around
soon
with
as you
that.
said it.
Okay, well, good question. Interesting. I was gonna say I was gonna pick Salvatore because I think Salvatore is the perfect in between of Lazarus and Severin, and therefore I think it would be the choicest opportunity for a shadow. Not too much, not too little. It'd be my comfort zone to be a shadow and get fed and just survive. Because isn't that
And
just
it
sort of the
would be
dream?
interesting.
Mm.
It's like he's my meal ticket, man.
He's definitely guaranteed meal.
He's
That's
my
for
shadow
sure.
daddy, if you will.
That needs to be Sarah's next T-shirt. Who's your shadow daddy?
Mhm.
Who's your shadow daddy?
I'm gonna
Talk to the
hold on. I'm
hand
gonna
because the
text
darkness
that
don't
to
care
her.
no more.
Who's your shadow daddy?
Do we all get a free Shadow Daddy T-shirt, guys? Come on.
I would wear it. I would wear 2. Actually, so I know Sarah sells the sweatshirt in a short sleeve, and it's starting to get warm outside, and I think I need the short sleeve to do this podcast. I don't know if I can continue wearing the sweatshirt, so because it's getting
I
hot.
feel like
Maybe it's
it's
the
now
hair.
becoming a uniform because you and Patrick have got it on.
Yeah.
We're twinsies, and isn't that also the dream? I know it's my dream, Patrick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Notice. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's why you have so much.
You're
much
welcome.
hair.
You just need to live vicariously, my friend. I don't necessarily
Absolutely.
think that's what the band Tool was singing about, but the word applies. Okay, so in the interest of time, let's do 2 more questions. We'll end with Tam, and I think the final question that I would like to ask you all is how would I like to phrase this? Maybe I can phrase it however I want to phrase it, and then I will directly answer it myself, and that kind of will help y'all understand what I'm. So, what was the biggest change in the book as a reread? So okay, what I mean by that is my biggest change in how I read the book is the first time I read the book, I was so taken with its darkness, with its graphicness, with its visceralness. This time I read the book, and that's all still there, but I was very taken with how emotional the book is.
Mm.
And that really stood out to me.
Can I throw another question at that for you? Do you think that's because you were sort of semi-desensitized the second time round? Because you've gone through the motions with them?
I was not desensitized because I had plenty. If I had a physical copy of this book, I would slam it shut and throw it across the room multiple points during all of the dark graphic shit. It was definitely not desensitization, right? The graphic stuff hit, the dark stuff hit just as hard. I think when I say emotional, I don't necessarily mean my response. I think what I mean is the amount of emotional stuff in the relationships on page
Mm-hmm.
is something that I didn't read or take away the first time.
Mm.
I think
So
mine's the same.
what? Go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, I think mine's the same um, because we were doing the ARC reading and I wanted to try and finish the book before it came out. I just read the book and didn't really put too much into it. Like, I read it not really caring about the people or I was paying attention to what I thought I needed to. This time round, the emotional side got me more. When you're reading about like Salvatore's relationship with his dad and all of that stuff, and it hit harder this time around because it was like, oh yeah, he's just a dude, da, 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 da. But then as you're going through, you see how much that actually affects him, but also like the whole Lazarus and Amara being in the Dreadhole together, it was like, oh, she's there the first time around, and it's like, oh, she's there. Like, it's there's a little bit more heaviness to it. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I
Yeah.
think the world building caught me this time. Like I said, beta reading and then arc reading, you're under a time crunch, so you're just doing it. And then doing it this way is where I really got to be a part of the book. Because she really drew me in of how she wrote it, how she presented it. Um, I think that was the biggest thing, the biggest change for me. Um, and Matt, you're right. It was very emotional the second time because I was able to slow down and really ingest it this time. So
I agree with you guys about the more emotional the second time around, but for me the biggest change was I really felt the difference between reading it as a final book and then reading it as the origin, the first book. Like that really hit me. I was reading it with a different perspective, and that hit different.
Can we just simply ask what was the perspective difference exactly? Like if you could put that into words.
Well, when I read it last, it kind of put pieces together that were missing, like with Lazarus and Salvatore. And there were a lot of aha moments, like, oh, now that makes sense, or oh, that was something that I wondered, and now it's. And then when I read it as an origin, I'm like, okay, pay really close attention here because everything builds on this. This is the foundation. And I want to be able to look back when I read like Timeborn and start reading, looking back and saying, okay, this is how they're significant.
Sort of like the difference in POV is the first time you read the book, it was all like, oh, hindsight's 2020. But this time reading the book, it's oh damn, the domino effects.
Exactly.
I think for me it was I was more emotional when I read it the first time. I think I cried like 4 times or something. But this time I knew, of course, I knew what was going to happen and everything. But also, what matters the most was talking about you guys with it, of course. But it gave me so much details, and I had the time this time to just read it closely and find the Easter eggs. And the first time I was just caught up, and this is so exciting, and it's a new world, and you're just flying through. So it was actually really, really great to be able to just focus on the detail and have the time to be like, okay, what's this name? What does it mean, if anything? And why is someone saying this, and having the pieces that it fits with, just like you guys already said.
Mm-hmm.
And having that soundboard
Tam,
to be able to ask other people who are reading it at the same time as you, like ask the questions that you might not know the answer to, but maybe somebody else does. That was quite cool.
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, this has been fun for sure.
Definitely.
Tam, did anything change between reads for you, or would you rather segue into
I
your
mean,
question?
like slightly tiny, which was pretty much just, well, like not tiny, but like I think the first couple times that I read over it, I cared more about the characters. I feel like the most recent time I cared a lot more about the surroundings than I did, if that makes sense. Because then again, like I didn't really process like the dread hold too much. I didn't really dwell on it that much. But then like we got to like fully analyze it. It feels like a real person now. Like understanding, yeah, Ugarit a bit more and things like that. I think I analyzed a lot more surroundings wise than I used to. And like when I felt like than I usually would in a book as well, technically. So that was quite, that was quite good.
I think that is fascinating because the first time I read this book, I read it as though I was reading the beginning of a fantasy series. And when you read the beginning of the fantasy series, at least for me, I care more about the world and the magic system. And then I care about how our characters fit into that because fantasies grow in scope, but the characters usually stay the same and then have like internal growth, if that makes sense. So I read Rise of the Shadow Lords and I cared very much about the city and the Dreadhold and the shadow magic. So this time reading it around, I was like, oh, I know how all these characters fit together later. I know the family trees. I understand what these relationships mean. And so I read it almost in exact opposite reverse as to how you read it. That's fascinating. That's cool.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
For the guys who are the beta readers, how do you feel that from the first point of the story being given to you guys to read to how it came out as the final sort of draft, how do you feel it changed quite a lot from the first point to the release, or do you feel that it still contained quite a lot of the substance that she wanted and like she'd put in the first draft, as it were?
I think it had everything in it. I think it just flowed better by the time it got released.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not an author. I mean, I write reports for a living, so it's very, standard. So I'm pretty sure it could be jumbled up, and then it does take a different eye because we write so much of it. You have to have a second eye on it, so you can be like, yeah, nope, this doesn't quite work. Um,
Mm.
so I think all the parts were there from the beta read to the actual release date. It just flowed it just flowed better all the way around.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Because there were like little things that I kind of picked up on being like, oh, like the pace is a bit too fast here. Like I feel like there's like Patrick kind of mentioned like the couple chapters that were kind of just smushed together at the start and stuff like that originally, things like that. And then versus when like the ARC version came around, I definitely noticed that like everything just flowed a bit like slower when they needed to, and that was kind of like the main difference I saw, and like it worked really well. It made it seem like we had more connection to those parts than I originally did in the beta.
Nice.
I think apart from those 2 points, something that I found to be very fascinating is that Sarah did not add to the story. She did. There were additions, in this version as compared to the beta. But what I mean by she didn't add to the story is she didn't increase the scope of the story. All she did was add some clarification here and there, or add a couple of actions within the existing scene to like up the stakes or draw out the relationship a little bit more. She added some details and clarity without changing the story. And I thought those tiny little things, they're almost unnoticeable unless you ask Sarah directly and she confirms.
True.
So after now we've all read Rise of the Shadow Lords first, because most of us did not. Do we think it belongs in first so far, or do we think it belongs a little bit later into the series? I'm still on the edge a tiny bit. I still think it would really slot in nicely after book 2, but or like book 3, probably book 2. But then it was kind of nice to read this at the start. But then I feel like for at least me, sometimes I might forget the characters a little bit that this late, like this kind of early into the series versus when they appear. So that's why I think like 2 books down maybe. What other people think?
Because I read the books in the order that they were released, so it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and this was the final
Three
book
and a
of
half.
the yeah. This was the final book in the series that I read. And I think it was hard to understand who these characters were throughout the series when you're reading them, because there's not really a mention. It's just a random old dude just chilling in the background and doing some almost like voodoo stuff. But um having now put this book at the front, it builds a better idea of what's happening, but I still think it might not be placed in the right point. Like you said, I think maybe after book 2 or maybe even book 3 would fit, for me, would fit slightly better. Because then you have got this sort of surprise element of, oh, who are these people? And then have a bit more of a story rather than having it right at the end. Because I feel like when I was reading it with it right at the end, it was sort of like, oh, well, if that had been put somewhere else, it would have made so much more sense throughout the story rather than just literally being the last one.
I've only read it as number 1 because this was where I started the journey. But so for me, it works perfectly here. But it's a bit difficult to say, I think, because I've never read it as anything else than number 1.
Well, I can't wait for you to read the rest of it, Lou. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm so
Oh
You're gonna
excited
love
to
it.
read again.
Yay.
I
Um,
technically read it as number 2. I read Timeborn first, and then Sarah had me read this one. So I don't have the hindsight is 2020 perspective to the extent that Sam, Lisa, and Patrick do, but I do have hindsight is 2020 in terms of, oh, that makes Timeborn stuff make a lot more sense. So then when I read Timeborn again after I read Shadow Lords, it felt bigger. Amara isn't just some random old woman who has random Deus Ex Machina sage advice right before she dies. And Alina's, her mom's death in the beginning, while you know that something is bigger is going on, now you really know something bigger is going on. And then I think my favorite part about having Shadow Lords first is that Balthazar, I personally really like knowing that Balthazar is not the big bad. Because at a certain point through the series, I feel like he isn't a big bad, but he is the big bad for like the first 4 books. And I think he fails as a big bad because he's not a big bad, right? And so knowing that he is not the big bad because of the origin novel, I think helped me come to terms with the fact of like the failings in his big bad character arc. If that was a little bit rambly and kind of a weird, I don't think I
No, that
phrased it.
made sense.
No,
That
it
made
makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
Mm. It did make, it makes sense.
Balthazar is less disappointing to me now as a big bad because he's not the ultimate big bad. Yes. Okay.
I followed that. That was good.
So I guess all to say, I still really like it as a first book because it ups the ante and expands the world from the jump.
Mhm.
And I personally like that. I know other people probably wouldn't like that. They might want to start small and then expand.
I would say that the fact that she, when you watch her TikTok, she goes, you can start either way. Reading it from the get-go, or reading this one last, now reading it first in such detail, I'm interested. I almost want to not answer this question because I want to make sure that if I go deep into this series the way we're doing it now, it may change where I think this book should be.
Mm.
Only because, every time I read it, I find something new. Now that I've done such a deep dive in Shadow Lords, I'm almost interested to see what pops off the page now that I understand the origin that I would not have gotten, by doing it the way we did it. So
I think so
I'm going
too.
I'm going to defer my answer on this, and we can revisit that at a later date. So
Please join us and continue the journey, because in our next episode, we will be switching gears and we will be fast forwarding some 3,800 years to the 1990s in America, where we meet Olivia James and all of her childhood trauma for the first time as we open chapters 1 through 6 of Timeborn. But for now, the archives are closed. Thank you all for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, all that happy stuff. And we will see you next week.
absolutely.
Bye.
Ciao.